What if every human had a twin born somewhere else in the world? Imagine that every person you know, whether friend, family member, or stranger, has a counterpart living in a completely different country. This twin might look identical to you, or perhaps share some personality traits, but the catch is they're living on the other side of the planet. Maybe they grew up in a different culture, speak a different language, or follow a totally different lifestyle. What would this mean for humanity? How would it affect relationships, society, and even the way we view our own identities? Let's dive into this mind-boggling what if and explore the fascinating possibilities of a world where every person has a twin born somewhere else. First, let's think about the immediate impact this would have on the concept of identity. How would we feel about ourselves knowing that someone else shares not only our physical appearance but possibly even our genetic traits? Would we feel a deep connection to them, or would it be more of a strange, distant curiosity? For some people, the idea of having a twin living far away might feel like an amazing, surreal experience. Imagine growing up with the knowledge that someone else, maybe on the other side of the world, has been experiencing life in a similar way to you. It could make you feel more connected to the human race in general, knowing there's someone else who gets you in some way. But on the flip side, it could also create a sense of competition or comparison. What if your twin lived a much more successful life, or achieved things you could only dream of? Would you feel inspired, or would you experience envy? The next thing to consider is how relationships would evolve. In a world where every human has a twin, could you ever truly be you without thinking about that other person? It might change the way we view our siblings, our friends, or even our closest romantic relationships. Would the bond between biological siblings become more important, since you already share one twin, making other relationships feel secondary? On a larger scale, societies might develop a stronger sense of community as we realize we have someone out there who shares our genes and might even have similar life experiences. But at the same time, the idea of having a twin across the world could also make people feel more isolated. You might never meet them and never know if your twin is living a completely different life or if you share some of the same interests, dreams, or fears. On a global scale, think about the cultural implications. This global twin connection could change the way we view different nations and cultures. If you knew that someone who looked just like you grew up in a completely different environment, spoke a different language, and had different customs, it might make you more open-minded and curious about the world. Cultural exchange might become even more meaningful as people discover not just ideas or traditions but actual living counterparts in far-off places. For example, someone from India might discover their twin is living in Brazil, and they might learn about the similarities and differences in their upbringing. People might travel more frequently, not just to meet others from different backgrounds, but to find their twin and see how their parallel lives unfolded in completely different circumstances. Could you imagine the incredible stories that could emerge from such encounters? Of course, there would be some significant challenges. On the one hand, the existence of a twin could foster empathy and a sense of shared humanity, but it could also create confusion. For instance, imagine if you were trying to understand yourself and the role you played in society, but constantly thought about how your twin, in another part of the world, might be living a totally different life. Would this knowledge lead to more happiness or make people feel like they're living in someone else's shadow? If we all had twins elsewhere, it could make individuality feel a little less significant. Would people begin to feel like they aren't unique, or would they celebrate the uniqueness of their twin's life path? What about in terms of science and health? Having a twin born in a different country could have fascinating implications for medical research. With two people genetically identical but living in entirely different environments, doctors could study how different lifestyles, diets, and healthcare systems affect the body and mind. It could lead to breakthroughs in personalized medicine, as researchers would have access to a massive, global data pool of twins who could be compared to each other across various conditions. In terms of genetics, this could give us a better understanding of how our genes truly influence our life paths, making medicine more precise and tailored to individual needs. But with all this potential comes some real-world complications. If there were billions of twins living on the planet, would people start to feel that their lives were somehow predetermined? Would it undermine the concept of free will? You might grow up thinking that the path you've taken is just one of many possible outcomes, and that your twin, somewhere in the world, is living a completely different but equally valid life. This could lead to a sense of uncertainty, or on the flip side, provide a sense of comfort, knowing that no matter what you face in life, there's someone out there who's experienced something very similar. The pressure of having a twin who could be living a very different life might make some people more introspective and, for some, perhaps less confident in their own choices. On the bright side, imagine the global networks that could form if we all knew someone who shared our DNA across the world. International collaborations would be stronger than ever, and the sense of belonging would transcend national borders. Global humanitarian efforts could find greater success, as people from different corners of the world, connected by the knowledge that they share someone with a similar genetic makeup, might work together more cohesively. And who knows, perhaps even governments and corporations might realize the potential for such global connections, encouraging more cross-border efforts in areas like technology, climate change, or education. So, what would the world look like if every human had a twin born somewhere else? It would be a world of deeper connections, more questions about identity, and a larger sense of unity, but it could also bring about new challenges in terms of individuality and the pressure to compare lives. Whether it would bring us closer together or push us further apart, one thing's for sure, our lives would never be the same, knowing that somewhere in the world, there's someone out there just like us, living an entirely different life. What do you think? Would this twin phenomenon be a blessing or a curse? Let me know your thoughts in the comments below. And don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit that notification bell for more what if scenarios here at What If Factory. Until next time, keep dreaming, keep wondering, and always keep asking, what if?